Hey, Broken World Entertainment, and yes, it's that time of week again. It's the Acolyte review for episode 6, and this episode is just as dumb as the rest of them, if not a little more, and we'll get into it. So, if you remember, you probably don't because you're probably not watching this garbage, and good on you. That's what we're here for. The end of last week was May disguising herself as Osha by giving herself a lightsaber haircut. How that makes her exactly like Osha, who knows, seeing she has a great big tattoo on her forehead. She left with Saul. Now, the last thing we saw last week was her and Saul back on board their ship, ready to leave the planet, with that gerbil thing, Basil, running around. He's all throughout this episode. That thing is annoying. But so they were about to leave, and we see the Master, the Stranger, whatever the hell they want to call him, Kamar, whatever the character's actual name is, finding Osha, and he takes her. Well, it seems like the directors and writers and stuff forgot that that's how it ended, because this episode we start off with Osha waking up in like some cave type thing. She's like, where am I? There's food cooking. She walks over, she finds a bag, a knife, one of May's knives falls out of it. She sees boots. By the way, for some reason she has no boots on. She's bandaged up with a massive, what clearly is a massive wound to her side, because you can see the blood in the bandages. She just walks it off. She doesn't even grimace or anything with this. She just jumps out of bed and walks around. But gets the boots, walks out. She's on some sort of island. I honestly thought it was going to be Skellig Michael, the islands for here in Ireland that Luke was on in Last Jedi, whatever the name of that planet was meant to be. I honestly thought that's what it was going to be. When they started zooming out, it's not. I think it looks like it was filmed in Iceland or somewhere. But there's like another little part of the island across from them with a ship on it. But she sees the Master, whatever, walking on the beach. She follows him. He goes swimming. All that kind of crap. Now, before she goes following him, she sees him walking. We go back to Saul and May. Now, remember what I said at the start of this and how the last episode ended? Saul and May got onto the ship and were leaving before we saw the Master finding Osha. Yeah, well, apparently they're still on the fucking planet. I kid you not. They are literally, when we go to them, they literally are only taking off from the planet. I'm like, wait, hang on, how? How are they still on the planet and the Master and Osha are already on a completely different planet? Work that one out. It's so stupid. Saul is trying to contact the Jedi to inform them that the team is dead. He does get that message through, but it keeps breaking up. May's about to attack him. So when she said, I don't need to do your mission anymore and screw the Master and all this, she's done another 180, because she's literally walking into the bridge, pulls out her knife and is ready to stab him until he goes, hey, Osha, the thing's not working. Can you try and fix it? And she's like, hey. He goes, I have to reboot the system. And he says this line, it's now a part of Star Wars apparently, take the wheel. Yeah. He tells her to take the wheel. So pilot the ship out of the atmosphere. He goes to reboot the system of the communication. Guess how he does it? Take a wild guess how they reboot the system. I'll give you a few seconds to think of it before I give you the answer. Well, what he does to do it, as he's doing it, he kind of freaks out and he starts hitting things and gets very emotional because the loss of his team. Completely un-Jedi-like. Have you figured out how he reboots the system? You probably have, and well done to you, because this is how they do it. He turns it off and on again. Yeah. He literally turns it off, waits a few seconds, and turns it on again. Don't worry, we have another moment like that coming up. Then we go back to Osha and the Master. She's followed him. He's stripped butt-ass naked for some reason to jump into the water to go swimming. She finds his lightsaber, picks it up. He's swimming out. He never looks back when he knows she's there and says, how does it feel having one in your hands again? I'm thinking, where's this going? You're in the nip. What do you mean having one? Oh, you're talking about the lightsaber. Okay. His Swartz is not as big as his. But get this, right? She has this big stance with it. He's like, very good. Raise her elbow a bit more. And then she puts it down another way to aim it at him and stuff. He talks a bit of bullshit to her. And she's kind of, oh, yeah, who are you? And what did you do? And blah, blah, blah. She never once ignites the lightsaber. She's pointing it at him like it's a gun. I'm like, you realize that thing is completely ineffective if you don't ignite it. It's just standing there holding the bleeding. Like, did they not have the $180 million budget to put a blade on that thing? Why is she not? But she asks him the dumbest question. The question is, did you kill Master Saul? Which he replies, no. And then she says, did you kill my sister? And he replies, no. And all I can think is, how would he have killed those two people when you are the one who stuck the little droid on his back with the light to have the bugs take him away? You literally watched him get taken away, and you watched your sister stun Saul. How exactly did you come to the conclusion of he must have killed Saul and May? Oh my Jesus Christ. The writing in this is fucking hilarious. We then go back to May and Saul. Guess what? They've literally only breached the atmosphere of the planet and have now made it into space. So in the entire time that they went to the ship, got on the ship, took the ship off, and flew to space, we've had Osha wake up on a different planet, walk out to a beach, follow the master to watch him go swimming, threaten him and have a talk with him, and go walking back to the cave. Yeah, how? How did all that happen in the time it took them to take off and simply get back up to their hyperdrive attachment thing? Then the whole ship breaks, it just shuts down for some reason. Every time he's trying to make a communication, it seems to break. Every time he's about to have a conversation with who he thinks is Osha, something happens. You know, every time he's like, oh, this happened 16 years ago, here's what happened, oh look, something happened on the ship, oh, we have to deal with that. The little Basil thing still has Pip and fixes it by plugging it into a USB port. Yeah, I'm not kidding about that either. He literally plugs it into a USB port. He obviously seems to have a conversation. So while we know that Yord was the only one who could speak the language of this gerbil, whatever the hell Basil is, apparently Basil can speak droid because he's talking with this thing, apparently. Where the two of them are like, hey, that bitch ain't May or Osha. So the ship breaks down. He sends May down to fix it, who he thinks is Osha. She walks into this, I don't know whether it's the engine room or what. The head of Pip is sitting there. We're coming up to this next great bit of technology in Star Wars. The gerbil comes running out from behind her, starts doing spinny kicks and stuff. You're like, what is happening? And then he just runs over, grabs her leg, runs away, and then I don't know whether Pip makes the part of the ship do this or whether the ship just does it. It spits this like gunk in her face, to which she sees Pip and goes, oh, I'll just put you back to factory settings. This is what she says to it. Brace yourself for this one. How do you think she sets it back to factory settings? Yeah, she literally holds it like a phone, as in she presses the power button and the volume button for about 2 seconds, and the lights goes off and then comes back on red. It's back to factory settings. Technology in Star Wars, people. Turn it on and off like a goddamn phone, and you want to fix your communications, turn it off and turn it back on again. While all this is happening, green bitch at the back on Coruscant at the council, whatever, has a conversation. She's having some conversation with a holographic senator about some shit. And the gayest Jedi in Star Wars history comes walking into the room to tell her, hey, we got a communication from Master Saul, and even though it was breaking up, pretty sure he said everyone's foobarred. And by the gayest, I mean he literally like, so, listen, we got like a message from Master Saul, and it's bad news. Oh dear. Literally, the dude's got a lisp and all. You're like, oh, this dude is gay as Christmas. She's like, okay, let's get a team together and we'll go to the planet to get him. And the dude's like, Jesus, how do you know where he is? And she's like, because I sent him there, you dickhead. Let's go. So they end up, they're on their way to the planet, you know. Turns out she gets hyperspace sickness. Yeah, it's meant to be funny, I suppose. It's not funny, especially with someone who can't act. The conversations between, we keep going back and forth between Osha and the Master and May and Saul. Again, there's no real conversations between May and Saul because, as I said, every time they start talking, shit happens on the ship. It either turns off or turns back on. She starts going, okay, you better tell me. Or she goes like, did you tell me everything that happened 16 years ago? You know, you think there he'd have twigged it or go, what do you mean, have I told you? You would know if I fucking told you. But he doesn't. He's like, you were just a child. And she's like, well, I'm grown up now. And he's about to tell her and the ship turns back on. And, oh, we gotta go. So she goes running off to the bridge and starts communicating and then gets stunned. Saul stuns her and you think, he finally figured it out. He finally sensed, oh, it's not Osha. No, Basil standing beside him. Basil clearly told him, hey, that bitch ain't May or Osha. And somehow, like, he keeps asking her, like, how did I not sense what May's master was up to and stuff, and how did I not sense him and blah blah blah. It's like, oh, your judgment can be clouded if you want something more or some crap. And I'm just thinking, how is he not sensing that this is not Osha? It should be as plain as day to him that this isn't Osha. So he gets the communication from there that, oh, Green Bitch is about to arrive. She's like, hey, we got your distress call. We're about to pop in. Keep your tracking beacon on. As she's saying it, he turns it off and goes to hyperspace. And literally, the second they're gone, their ship arrives. And just goes right down onto the planet. I'm like, you literally had a tracking beacon that would have showed you that his ship was in orbit, not on the planet. Why are you going down to the planet? They go down to the planet. They go wandering off into the forest. Time, by the way, means nothing in this episode because, remember, the last time we saw people arriving on that planet, to get to where Kalnaka was, they were like, it's a 4-hour journey. And it got dark on their trip in. Well, these jabrones seem to do it, and somehow they know exactly where to go, which also makes no sense, but they do. They managed to do it in what seems to be 10 minutes. They get there. This is the episode we see the Green Bitch use her whip lightsaber. Is it meant to be like this big, oh my god, it's a whip? No, she takes it out very quickly to kill one of the bugs. And that's it. That's literally, it's like a 2-second moment. It's zup, zup, and lightsaber short, and you're like, that was it? You made a big deal over that? Wow. She's like, well, young apprentice dickhead, let's go. What do you think happened here? And he's like, well, Jesus, there was clearly an explosion, and these people got their asses whooped by the looks of things. And she's like, yeah, they were all killed with a lightsaber, knob end. He's like, oh no, do you think Master Saul did it? And she's like, that's a fucking dreadful allegation to make. She doesn't say, of course he didn't. She's like, I think it's the tipping of balance or some shit. And then she goes, okay, let's go back to the ship. By the way, Not once did she land and go, we need to find Master Saul or anything. It's literally, once they arrived, they never like, how come his beacon was turned off? Why isn't the ship here? Where is he? No, it's just like, hey, look at all these dead people. We better take them and bury them. At least they had the decency to do it. I literally thought though they weren't going to do that, because it seemed like they weren't. So that's the end with them. We skipped over a lot of the conversations between Osha and the Master, because it's all pretty much one conversation, so we may as well just cover all of that in one go, which is he's basically trying to get her to join him now. She's all, no. She constantly, by the way, still has his lightsaber. Like, this is the whole thing. She constantly has his lightsaber. And he's like, yeah, so, you can come back up here with me, like, whatnot. Are you hungry? Yeah. Otherwise, you might want to swim over to the ship before sunset if you fancy, or you can wait till the tide goes out. We're not going to have dinner anyway. So they're having a conversation like, you killed Jackie, and he's like, yeah, what kind of relationship do you think you were going to have with her? It was always going to be one-sided. And she goes, you killed Yord. And he's like, he fucking was just a moron type thing. She's like, all this, and she asks him, you remember last episode when Saul asked him what did he want, his answer was to be able to use his powers freely and all this crap. This time, when Osha asks him, what do you want? He says, I want the power of 2. Or something of 2. So he's perfectly referencing he wants to be the master and have an apprentice. And he's doing everything to convince her to turn. She's like, I'm not so easily swayed. I'm not me sister. Yada, yada, yada. Then we see him, he's like welding his helmet. He does explain that it is a metal that's from the EU, which apparently in the EU is meant to be incredibly rare and incredibly hard to use, to manufacture and all this stuff, and yet he's got a vein of the stuff in a cave that they're in. Tells Osha, hey, why don't you try it on? She's like, no. And she asks him, like, why do you wear it? And he says, oh, blocks the sense, and they can read your mind. He goes, no. He goes, it cuts off everything. Like, it's literally just you and the Force. And wanders off. And you can see that there's a turn that she's probably going to end up becoming evil. And May will probably become good. So we go. She's eyeballing the mask. The Smiler Ren mask, of course. We go back to May and Saul. She wakes up like in sick bay or something. She's handcuffed to the bed. He's like, oh, May, you know, she's like, let me go. And he goes, I will, I promise. But I've been pondering for 16 years what I'd say to you if I got the chance. And now I'm going to tell you everything and blah, blah, blah. And it looked like that's where the episode ended. That's not where the episode ended. Because we go back to Osha staring at the mask. And she puts the mask on. Yay, she actually goes over and puts the mask on. And instantly becomes a chain smoker. And what I mean by that is she puts it on and she goes from normal breathing to and I kid you not, and I couldn't stop laughing. I was still laughing right as I was hitting record to do this, because it was just hilarious. They're clearly trying to make it sound and seem like Vader's breathing, but it's just like, why did she become an instant chain smoker? Why is she breathing like that? And that's where it ends. This episode is actually like 32 minutes long. But it's garbage. Absolutely garbage. Lee Jong-jun's performance in it is, performance in it is good. You know, even though he's got crap dialogue to deliver and everything that's around him is garbage, and they've just made him a full idiot in it. He's showing emotion, you know, a good actor for that with the emotion. And the guy, Mandy, whatever his name is, the guy who's playing the master, he's good. Now that he's not having to do this jokey kind of performance that he was when we first meet him, now that he's like just dark side kind of, again, rubbish dialogue and crap surroundings and stuff from the story, and working off of Amanda Stenberg, who is just a horrendous actress. She cannot her facial expression does not change at all. But he's decent in what he is trying to do, just that what they have him doing is not worth doing. But that's the episode. Yet another horrendously bad episode. We now have 2 episodes left to go, one of which is meant to be a flashback episode. So next week's will probably be the flashback episode, and then we get one more. Jesus, we're almost going to be in August by the time this garbage ends, and then Rings of Power Season 2 starts. Jesus, give me strength. So with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.